My name is David Silva. From Houston, Texas. Born and raised here, and I'm a barber by profession, and I've been doing it just about 12, 13 years now. And I started out actually fresh after college. I moved back to Houston from Rome, Italy, where I was studying. And that's really where my story began, because I was looking for a career path, trying to find my way. I had recently started working at a wine bar here in Houston. And at the same time, I had these really fond memories of going to the barber in Rome, which was an experience that I loved. It was a place where you could kind of be coddled away. So yeah, my experience in Rome was simply this discovery of a love for the art of barbery. And it was very subtle in my back, like in the back of my mind. I didn't actually pick up on it and say, oh my God, that's what I want to do. No, it was actually just an experience that I enjoyed a lot. It was sort of a reprieve for me from student life, from the pressure of life in general. Thinking back to where I was at that time, it was super important that I had this place to go where there was this friendly face, welcoming environment, very warm. And then at the same time, just for who I am, the appreciation that I had for that manual artistry. And this was all really subconscious at the time. I didn't have any words that I could tell you as I am now about that appreciation. Fast forward to life back in Houston, I was literally just trying to find a career path. I had really no clue what was going to be a fit for me. And every interview that I went on down the corporate paths just didn't speak to me. And eventually, I was looking for that same barber experience when I was here, and couldn't find it, you know. And one of the things that was interesting that happened, coincidentally, my brother came home one day, and he came back from a haircut, and it was a pretty shabby haircut. And I had recently purchased a pair of scissors and a comb, thinking that I was going to be able to use those tools to cut my own hair. Though that never happened, that day my brother asked me, he said, "Hey man, do you have those scissors and that comb? Like, you think you can fix this, you know, this bad job that just happened?" And in that moment, it was natural. I took the scissors and the comb and kind of looked at him, and just visually, photographic memory wise, from my Italian barber, knew what to do in order to fix this. So it was fluid and natural. I just took to his hair, and then the next day, I think we were on the way to a family reunion, and he kind of provoked me with this question. You know, I know you're looking for a career. Have you ever thought, like, you did a really good job. Have you ever thought of this, you know? From that moment on, something changed, you know? So I started investigating. I started talking to industry professionals, started talking to people at the wine bar that I was working at the time. And one thing led to another, and I got connected with people that really turned me on to the possibility that this could be a path for me. And eventually ended up getting an assistant position at a salon. And that's where I was convinced, you know, the atmosphere, the service aspect, this sort of manual, tactile, singular project aspect of every haircut and every hair design was something that was so fulfilling for me at that time. And I just thought, if this is work, then I could live in this, you know. So that's where it started, and I was convinced from that point on. And I worked in a salon for about 7.5 years before going out on my own, and really had cultivated some awesome mentorship, some mentors and friends in the industry, and had eventually journeyed back to Italy year after year. And I really cultivated some nice friendships, one in particular that's been kind of a driving force and inspiration for me, my friend Francesco in Milan, who's a renowned barber, and his style just stuck out to me one day when I saw, quite randomly, a video on YouTube of him in his studio explaining the history of the trade, explaining things in a way that I said, and I looked at him, I was like, the way that this guy does this work is so elevated, so human, so, in touch with the roots of the trade, that I wanted to be like him. So I booked passage to Milan and ended up getting an appointment with him. Was in his chair. He was cutting my hair, and he even gave me a shave. And after that, I really told him why I was there. And he from that point on kind of took me under his wing, and we've been in touch since. That was 8 years ago, and he's really been the mold that's helped me kind of dig into a more meaningful path and why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And it really is rooted in this experience in the chair, the person, the individual that you have, and allowing kind of this human unfolding of what may be one of the most important relationships you never know, that comes from just a customer. That someone that you get to know on a certain level, and you become that reprieve for them. You become a space for them, and you become a place that's liberating in a way. I mean, that's really the experience of being able to let your guard down. And I have to say that for me early on was the sort of miracle potion of what the barber can do for any human person, is that it allows you a space and an opportunity to really kind of drop the veils and just be who you are. So that has been the unfolding of these years and the evolution of what I'm doing now, and what I'm really, the space that I'm living in, the mental space that I'm living in with regard to my work, is simply that there's something of an elevation of the human person that comes out so naturally now. And I think as I've grown more free to be who I am, living in this vehicle that I actually have embraced, and inspired by this dream that I had that I've shared with Jay before. There was a very interesting dream that came to me not long ago. It was actually Jay came into my dream and asked me, sitting in my barber chair, he said, "So what's it all about?" And I knew that he was referring to my job, my craft, and I simply replied, I said, this has been given to me as a vehicle and a means to live out my I. And translation being, there is no David, there is no I without a you. And so this you is the other creative force in my life, that is God, that is this exceptional creation force that gives life to all things. And I'm so aware of my smallness in front of that creative gift that is birthing life constantly. The great natura in Italian, nature, that is to be born. Life is ever born from this creation. And so I realized that I am a co-creator in what I do, and this is the vehicle for me to become and constantly become who I am. So that's the depth of what I'm living today, and I think it's giving a new space for people to express their own humanity and find their own journey.
You talk a little bit about both that relationship of now sort of being a boss, now having your own facility with someone who works for you, but also how to cultivate someone who's just starting out in his career.
Yeah, my cousin's name is Noah. He just turned 21, and he, in a very miraculous way, has grown up to be such a similar personality type to who I was when I was his age. So I say miraculous because I feel like it's a miracle that I get to witness someone that is so similar and very much like character, temperament, and the way that he sees the world, that for me, being his cousin, but also his boss, it's like I can see so clearly who he is at his age. And so that's given me, in a way, sort of an advantage to coach and mentor him in a very easy way, because I'm literally talking to myself at 21, who he is today. So I see that as a gift. It just so happens, and that creates this flow in our relationship that, I don't want to say it creates an easy work atmosphere, but in essence, there's harmony. There's harmony because he and I really understand one another. So I think, in a way, I'm looking at a version of my younger self and able to give straight up experiential awareness, words of wisdom sometimes, and I see it click with him. And so he, I feel, is on the receiving end, living this fast forwarded, or at least plugs of knowledge and awareness for him to reflect on. And he sees that what I'm giving him is always true. So whether it's with regards to how we clean the shampoo bowls or how we treat a customer when they walk in, from A to Z, he's getting the truth of what I've lived in this experience of this work. So yeah, we were presented with daily challenges, but the communication level that we maintain, the sort of powwows and coaching that we do literally at the end of every day, I'm always digging into where is he at and what's he learning, and in my own reflections, in my own time, think like, how can I better, communicate to him this, or how can I better transmit what I see as important for his next step to become a better barber.
Can you talk about the adjustment of when you work for someone else versus when you opened up your own shop and really worked for yourself?
Boy, the humility and the stress at the same time that come. Humility being like, you realize, wow, how much one person has to learn just to be employed for themselves. All the things that you learn that you just were shielded from being an employee. So that leap it felt like a quantum leap. It was just so huge, going into the unknown and embracing and literally having to take the punches of not knowing what you're doing, and all the challenges from accounting to the bookkeeping to commercial leasing to learning all these different new languages that you have no idea. So that was a humbling experience, because I literally had to lower myself beneath the amount of things and say, okay, I don't know what all this is. Let me figure it out. Had a lot of help too. So you see that from others, you get this incredible love and amount of support that you didn't realize was there until you're faced with these challenges. So going into business for myself was the greatest challenge, and still one of the greatest blessings that I've lived and continue to live. And yes, it's so different from being an employee. I think there are two mindsets. There's employee mindset and there's owner mindset. And being that I've lived one and I'm now living the other, it gives me such a deeper perspective, even for where Noah is, in his employment, and where I came from, and such a deep appreciation for all that it takes to make that journey to become an independent in a way, and have an individual task and amount of things that are now given to you, and you have to be a good minister to them. And it's not easy, but when you look around, you find that people are there, to support you. So I feel extremely grateful for that experience.
Can you talk a little bit about how your faith has shaped how you look at your work, or if it shaped how you look at your work?
Yeah, I live in this constant awareness that there is no me without God. I was just having a conversation yesterday with the young man that was in my chair, and simply put, we understood that relationship, the fact that he and I were able to even speak to one another in a way that was allowing each other to see a window into one another's heart, came to this conclusion that, like, wow, this is a special place. And I live in the awareness that, like, God has given me this place. And my own life has given me an awareness of, man, how fragile the human person is, and how much we all need a space that we can become ourselves. And I feel like if you haven't been given something, then it just might be that you've been given the call to become that something for other people. And so in my early life, even though I was formed in a sort of Catholic way, there was a lot missing in terms of core relationship, with me and my understanding and a relationship to God. And I have to say that the invitation that I received through my own personal encounter with God, through a human being that happened to be my neighbor back when I was 18, really made this journey human. and it converted what I thought was something that was just an up in the sky reality of me trying to be a better person to a fleshy, real human encounter with somebody that really rocked my world. And from that moment on, I began to see through a new lens the human person and how fragile we really all are, and how great a need we have for salvation, for a savior, someone that literally, I like salvation word because there's the old salve, you know, a balm, an ointment that is for healing, that heals a wound. So who is that great healer is a question that I live with in the back of my mind all day long. And it's literally the lens at which I look at each customer and each person that walks through the door, because I know that they have the same need. There's some wound there that needs a salve to be put on it for healing. And I feel like the journey I have now is this sort of being an extension of the one that was the original person that put that salve in my wound.
So I know, and I think maybe people don't appreciate how physical a work being a barber is, because you're, obviously your hands are very engaged. You're usually leaning into a person. You're on your feet all day, and that person just sort of relaxing and maybe doesn't always appreciate the physical nature of being a barber. And then of course there's the stress of owning a business. So can you talk about how do you create space so you don't get burnt out?
Well, today's an example. Today's November 12th, 2022. Today's my birthday. And thank you. And you have to decide, like, okay, this is a Saturday, usually a big day for hairdressing and barbering world. We have a lot of customers that come out on the weekend, but I knew I was taking today off and I planned it. And over the years, I've had to have a lot of help from others to help me see the very need that I have for physical rest, for mental, emotional, spiritual restoration. So today's just a simple example. I'm taking the day off. Become a lot more disciplined at looking at my calendar 1 year in advance and planning it. And I think it takes great diligence. It takes a great care for yourself. It takes a great love for your own life and for your work. And at the same time, I can't claim that I gave myself that great love and great diligence to care for my life in that way. It's taken a lot of heartache. It's taken a lot of falling and illness even. Takes dry hands and eczema sometimes. And I even mentioned this to you in a sort of funny way, but my mentor says, this is the trait of hemorrhoids. It's like, just to keep it real, like there's a lot of suffering that goes on when you stand on your feet all day. That kind of paints the picture of the human aspect of it. And there's value in that, I think. There's this constant knowing in my physical body that there's pain. I try to manage that pain. I try to do good for myself in the off hours. I try to take care of myself. But at the same time, there's sacrifice and there's gifting and making that pain have purpose. And I see it when I'm bent over at that shampoo bowl and giving somebody a relaxing shampoo, and I see where they're at. And I allow that pain and that suffering, physical, to transmit into something that can be total enjoyment and relaxation. So it's gifting of what you need also at the same time. And then being able to say, oh, wait a second, I can do that for myself too, or I need to do that for myself. So today I have a massage booked at 4:30.
Awesome. And happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.